Hey everyone, on this snowy Friday afternoon, I wanted to sort of reframe some things for y'all. I know everybody's had a little bit of some confusion. There's been some questions and confusion with week 3 not getting open right away in particular, but also when I'm looking through and seeing what people have submitted and what's missing. I just want to make sure everybody is all feeling confident about what the requirements are for this course. So I'm going to go over that just again real quick here before the weekend starts. I know a lot of you do work on your front range stuff over the weekend, and one thing that's different about this class as opposed to other online classes is that we have to sort of be prepared for the practice and video capture assignments to make sure that we use the work week to collect those in a timely way. Um, but I just want to also just point in the right direction for things. So here we are. I'm going to go into our course materials, and now that we've started this in week 3, we start with this sort of reflective practice cycle, which here in week 3 I've given you another video that explains about that, and also just a little visual map of how this cycle will progress for the majority of the rest of this semester. Um, that's really important to view that one as well. But I just want to remind you all that your checklist, your to-do list is all here in the table of contents. So you just go to the week, um, and I recommend that you just review each week so far. Make sure that you've taken care of all the things that need to be taken care of. You can check things off here on your own so that you um, can self-monitor maybe what's missing. You can leave unchecked and come back to that. But but I do recommend you utilize these checklists I've made for you. For every week moving on here, I'm trying to really hone in on the learning target that we're focusing on. So you can see that here in the intro piece. And our learning target now is all about providing this positive emotional climate in the classroom, and how we can do that through the use of furniture and displays and materials, but also how we do that through interactions with children. And so the ultimate goal is that we have a place where all the members of this community really enjoy being together, and children look forward to coming to school. That's really important. So um, I did make a note here in the intro that if you are working with infants and toddlers, we have to adjust things. So most of the materials that I might be providing or the examples I might provide probably focus more on like the 2 to 5 or 6 year old range. If you're working with 6 to 8 year olds, or if you're working with birth to um, 2 or 3 year olds, we have to be really intentional about making sure we're being developmentally appropriate for those ages as well. So please do ask about those things in the question and the answer areas, and of course in your video submissions if needed, and we'll definitely be able to make comments about that as we see those videos come in. Um, so anyway, I recommend the checklist. You go through it one by one. I try to put it in a sequential order that makes sense. Um, your first mentor meeting log is due Monday at midnight, essentially, for 11:59 p.m. is the time I set for due dates. And um, you have an opportunity to collect that on Monday still, so don't worry about that if it's not in. But you will want to make an intention to try to collect it on Monday if possible. If it's late, it's late. It's just what it is. But again, this class is really about you being able to self-regulate your workload, your time frame for things. I've tried to provide the structure for you to do so in a way that makes sense and is meaningful, but you're going to need, I don't want to be monitoring, I don't want to be hyper monitoring you. I don't want to be sort of micromanaging your workload. And you certainly aren't going to get points reduced for not doing something on time, but I will point out that there is a learning target of work ethic um, in our grading system for this class. So I'm just going to go here to the grades since I just mentioned that just to point this out. Um, I do realize that I need to check another box so that you can see more detail here that I have written into it. But basically, these are the learning targets. And this is what you're going to be graded against in this class, that you're going to be actively working toward those targets. And we're going to, during our conference times, which we have 3, and this week, I'm asking you to schedule those, so please do look at that schedule and sign up for times that work for you and me. We will meet virtually in a tool that Front Range uses called WebEx. A, it's like a Google Hangout or a Skype. It's a video conferencing tool that we use, and it can be pretty easy to use. You just want to make sure you're connected to high-speed internet when you do so. Um, but anyway, each of these learning targets has a set of more detailed criteria, and we are going to be having discussions during our conferencing time about how you're meeting those targets. Um, and so each one of these items is going to have a rubric attached to it, and I'm really surprised actually that in the student view you can't view rubrics anymore, because that was a change that D2L made. So I'm going to log out as my student view so that you can see the rubrics that I'm trying to show you. Maybe I'll pause the video so you don't have to live through this part. Okay, back at it. This is also in your syllabus. So it's not that you don't have access to this anywhere. Please do go to the week 1 content and look at your syllabus, because this rubric is in there under the grading criteria for this class. But this is something that I can use in D2L when we have our conversation. We can look back at your previous learning experiences and work you've submitted, your videos, your comments to other students, your mentor meeting logs, and all these things, and really look for how are you meeting those learning targets. Each of the learning targets, again, has those more specific criteria, and as you can see from this week's materials, you do have a downloadable set of those criteria that you can take into your practicum with you. So while you are practicing next week, you'll be able to have it at hand to sort of remind you of your intentions. But when we meet, we'll be having those conversations about those specific criteria that we've already addressed in class. And again, work ethic is one of those things. And work ethic includes things like submitting things on time, um, coming prepared to your practicum site, dressing appropriately. So some of those things I'm going to get from your mentor teacher later in the course. And some of the things are more related to our class structure. So are you asking clarifying and probing questions about the course content or about the process of the course? And a lot of you have been, which is awesome. So those kinds of things are things that we'll be talking about. And you can see that we have a range of behaviors that help us to identify sort of what level you'll be at when we have those conversations. And I just want to reiterate to you, which I think I did in our overview, that if you do end up, if we decide, oh, yeah, I have an emerging proficiency on the learning targets here, so I do have places that really need improvement before I can confidently say I'm proficient in this skill set. You're going to have opportunities from me. I'll be able to give you some targeted feedback for how you might be able to improve, and you'll have opportunities to continuously improve throughout until the end of the class. So ideally, nobody should get below a B in this class if you're engaged and really buy into and embrace the process that I'm trying to structure here. So, a transformative grade is really demonstration of, the things that you have learned about under the learning target have transformed your practice as a teacher. And that's why the title is transformative. Proficient is obviously it's a basic, level. It doesn't have to be expert level, but at a basic level, are you proficient in those areas? Do you need improvement, or is it incomplete, meaning there's, maybe you haven't turned in half of the learning assignments, around that particular outcome. And so I'm just going to go back to the gradebook and show you with those a couple of examples of what the specific criteria will look like in your gradebook, just to help you sort of begin to be thinking about how you're going to self-assess for that. Okay, so now I've clicked the box that wasn't clicked before, and I'm logged in as a student. So this is the exact view that you will have now when you go to the gradebook. And you'll see the title here for the learning targets, and then you'll see here is this learning target, the one we're working on. We're beginning the learning cycle with this week. Here are all the more specific criteria that we are learning about. And this week we're supposed to be completing the tutorial in GoReact about this, and I'll show that to you in just a minute so you can see exactly what I'm expecting of you there, because there were questions coming in about that as well. And then below those specific criteria, and these are the same things that are on the printable document that you can take in when you go and practice these things. But underneath that, I've tried to list, here are the learning experiences in this course. Since we're not giving points just to complete things, I still want you to be doing them, because that's the learning part. So these are the items that will contribute to your defense of what grade you think you earned. So I hope that makes sense, and you can find the Q&A and ask questions there, or you can message me privately. If you think that there's a question that would benefit other people, I do recommend you use the Q&A area to do that. And then here's the work ethic, the work habits piece that I was talking about. So you can look through that on your own. I didn't put what week these things are due in, but in terms of these learning experiences, but that will be evident in the checklist. So I hope this is helpful. This is new for me. This is a new way for me to assess your learning. And so feedback is always welcome in terms of what's working for you as a student and a learner. So I would appreciate that. I also want to show you a new item in here that we will be doing every week beginning this week, because we're doing this reflective teaching cycle. We now have, I want you to do some reflection, and the way that we're going to submit these reflections is in the discussion area, but it's not a discussion. So I just want to make that really clear. And there will be a link to the right place for you to go in the content checklist. And we're starting to do these learning target reflections this week, and you'll submit one for each learning target that you're working on that particular week. So at the end of this week, I want you to write a reflection about just this week's work with the tutorial that you'll be completing in GoReact. So here's our learning target, the positive emotional classroom climate and behavior supports. And here's what to do. And so really you're just going to be submitting a written reflection that addresses these questions. How did I make progress toward the learning target this week? I'm going to ask you to talk about what was new for you. What did you practice during a practice week? You're not practicing this week, but you will be next week. So next week you'll definitely want to address that. What did you practice? How did the children respond to your practice with the things that you did? And just really reflect on that. What was the impact? That's what I want to hear about. Why is this learning outcome significant or important? And because you're going to be writing about that every week that you're doing it, and it's a 4-week cycle for every learning target, you probably want to talk about it differently every week. Hopefully you've got a new perspective where you're deep into your practice somehow. And then, sort of like just a little reflection on what do I need to continue to do to keep learning in this area. And again, remember, I will always say, we're never perfect or done. Nobody. So there's always something else to be working on, even if you feel like you have a lot of expertise in that area. When you submit this is set up as a group of one, meaning So only you and I can view this and talk to each other in this space. But I can reply to you here. And so if I do, feel free to answer back. I put it here instead of the assignment folder for that reason, so that we can have a conversation if we want to. You can also ask some questions in here, but I would love it if you keep your questions to that particular learning target. That'd be great. Then we can just kind of review those comments when we do meet for our conferences and talk about where you are in meeting these targets. So I hope that helps. So when I click this, since it is set up as a group of one, again, I can start a thread, but the rest of the class, as a student, I can start a thread. The rest of the class can't see my response. So only me as the instructor can see your response. I just want to let you know that. So I hope that makes sense. This will be, again, become a routine, regular thing, and you'll get used to that. So let me go to the Go React area now and point out we had our introductions, and most of you, some of you were able to get your videos uploaded. Awesome. Some of you have been able to go in there and then leave a message for each other, and that is what I really encourage you to do. That's part of this week's tasks, is to welcome your classmates through this tool. And Please do utilize the resources I've given you for troubleshooting if need be, and talking to the Go React help desk. I have been told that they are going to be really responsive to you, as opposed to the tool we were using last semester was really not a good experience for a lot of students. So I hope, my fingers crossed, that this is an exceptional tool. It proves to be so far for me, so I'm really excited to use it. Um, so Last week, in week 2, I asked you to complete the first tutorials, and it's these two here that I'm talking about, this introduction to teaching strategies. The first one here, again, these are group discussions around the videos you're watching. This is a produced video by, you know, uh, you know, um, it's professionally produced video. It has some cool stuff in it, though. It's worth commenting on. And I recommend that if talk to each other in this discussion. It's not just a short answer response all the time, although that's totally appropriate too. But you can ask each other questions. There's all kinds of ways to utilize this tool. I'm really excited about. The second one is a screencast from me. So I created this screencast for you, and I would like you to get in here and do this. A few of you have added comments, but not enough. And this does provide sort of an overview of these. When I talk about the teaching strategies for this course, I'm really talking about those learning targets. And so it would be helpful for you to get oriented by viewing that, even though the due date has passed. Again, there's no penalty for late work, so jump in and do the learning. That's a good idea. So then for this week, the tutorial is this one on positive emotional climate. It is a little longer, but it should be engaging. I hope it's engaging for you. So please do pop in there. I set this up for our old platform, which this one is so great because when you add a text comment, it automatically pauses the video you're watching so you have time to respond. Um, but there are pauses in here that have prompts on them, and you can just answer that prompt that is already in the video. So that would be the way to handle that. So so that is due. So please take some time this weekend or Monday to do that. And then next week, I'm starting to add the other assignments here. So you'll see that this is available February 11th. So you can't submit this yet, which means that it's just, I've tried to sequence this so that it's all the learning stacks upon itself. But you can still read the instructions to give yourself an overview of what's to come if you'd like. You have to click the more. This isn't the best way to read these things, and I hope that you can scroll. I'm not having luck scrolling, but I'm going to try to put additional instructions in the D2L content so that you have it in both places. But hopefully that is easy for you to use, and it, and is and provides you no barriers or trouble. This is my goal, is that this is very streamlined and that you can that we'll be able to really collaborate and have a dialogue in here about the videos. So the videos are required, and I hope that you got that from the first 2 weeks content. So get in here and add your test video and your introduction if you haven't already, and I look forward to greeting you there. Um, I've been talking for 20 minutes, so I'm going to stop now, but I just wanted to give you sort of that overview, and hopefully that gives you a little bit clearer understanding of sort of the way this course is going to run. And again, if you do have a question at any time about those things, you can always go to activities and to discussions, and there's a Q&A here in the community forums where you can ask and answer those questions. So again, I hope it helps, and I look forward to working with you the rest of the semester. Thanks.